Hey, it's your guy Tyrrell back with the interviews. In today's video, we're going to briefly analyze Granit Xhaka's dominant man-of-the-match performance in Arsenal's 3-0 win at Brentford. So in today's video, first we're going to briefly gloss over Arsenal's structure for those that didn't watch the Arsenal-Brentford analysis video. Then we'll shift to how Xhaka's vertical runs played a key role in Arsenal creating chances and getting into good areas. And lastly, we'll focus on how Xhaka provided good defensive cover by dropping in towards the half spaces. So when we shift to the board, like you had Brentford in a 3-5-2, and Arsenal playing in somewhat of a hybrid between a 4-2-3-1 and a 4-3-3. You had Fabio Vieira slightly a bit higher than Thomas Partey and Xhaka, and then in the attacking phase, you had Xhaka either dropping deeper to collect the ball near Thomas Partey or pushing into the attack to occupy a center back. Tactically speaking, there weren't any major changes in how Arsenal looked to approach this game, as there was varied attacking structures in their offensive build-up. They offered the same tactical flexibility in terms of the shape. At times it could be a 3-2-5 with Xhaka or Tierney dropping off a bit deeper. Then they could shift to more of a 4-1-5 with the fullbacks narrow and then Fabio Vieira and Xhaka pushing forward to occupy the wide center backs. At times you could see them shift into a 3-1-6, and I would see White pushing forward on the overlap. And then there were occasions where they were a 2-3-5 where Tierney and White tucked into narrow positions, and they had the front three along with the shuttlers pushing forward to occupy the final third. So as we highlighted in the Brentford Arsenal analysis, Fabio Vieira's role was pivotal due to the fact that Brentford pressed in a very poor manner, and he was capable of occupying both me and Jensen at times and dragging them narrow, and then that would create space for Saka to run at Henry and White to make overlapping runs down that right hand side to get into advanced areas. But over on the left hand side, we witnessed the same rotations that we expect from that Arsenal left hand trio. You have Martinelli who could hug the touchline with Xhaka pushing forward and Tierney holding a narrow inside left position. At times Martinelli was drifting into central areas to occupy center backs across the pitch, and then that's where you would end up seeing Xhaka dropping off into a deeper position closer to Thomas Partey or in that inside left position and Tierney bombing forward down the left touchline. And there was the rare occasion where Xhaka just simply dropped off a bit more deeper in that narrow inside left position with Martinelli occupying a center back and Tierney drifting in towards that central area. But put simply, there were three ways that Xhaka was able to impact this game in that midfield area. From an offensive standpoint, it was his vertical runs in towards the final third that we've witnessed on a consistent basis this season. But here what he was doing was that he was getting runs off of De Silva, who was his marker, because in that midfield zone, what Brentford ended up doing was that they had the two strikers in between Thomas Partey, but that wasn't successful as the game persisted, and they had the shuttlers pushing out towards the fullback. So in that case, it should be Xhaka against De Silva and Fabio Vieira against Jensen, but with Saka and Martinelli hugging the touchline, that forces the wingbacks to stay deeper, and it forces the shuttlers to shift across to close down the Arsenal fullbacks. Brentford specifically had an issue with Fabio Vieira, as Jensen would push out to close down White, and then Janelt would step towards Thomas Partey, and if he didn't step in time, Partey would often be able to play the ball around those two and split that gap for Fabio Vieira, dropping in towards the midfield zone, and that would drag out Ben Mee. The other alternative for Brentford would be to have the two strikers stepping towards the center backs, but then that would leave Thomas Partey free, and that's where you would see Janelt stepping forward to close him down, and when they press from goal kicks, you'd see Jensen pushing forward to make it 3v3. The reason why Janelt didn't have much of an impact from that holding midfield position was because Gabriel Jesus was dropping into that midfield zone and he would have to pick him up, or Martinelli would be shifting laterally and that would occupy the holding midfielder, and that would force me to step out to close down Fabio Vieira. However, with Arsenal looking to attack with 5 players in the final third, there were several occasions where Xhaka was looking to make runs beyond the center backs or simply occupy them to receive the ball, but passes from deeper areas weren't connecting with him. But as he continued to make runs off De Silva in towards the final third, he was creating space for teammates to get on the ball and simply getting himself in areas where he could create for Gabriel Jesus breaking in behind. In this example, you witness Gabriel carrying the ball in towards the Brentford half and focus on Xhaka's positioning. He makes a forward run and it drags away De Silva, and it creates a passing lane for Gabriel to split De Silva and the striker to find Martinelli. When Martinelli receives the ball, Ayer desperately lunges towards him, and Martinelli lets the ball roll across his body, and that's how he's able to evade the center back, and now he can play the ball into Xhaka as De Silva didn't track his run. From here, Xhaka has two options. He can look to play the ball across the 6-yard area for Gabriel Jesus or Saka, or look to pull the ball back into the path of Martinelli, who's already running beyond Ayer, and you have Janssen being pulled out by Xhaka. Xhaka opts to play the ball back to Martinelli, and from this position, he's placed in a legitimate goal-scoring area where he should be testing the keeper at the very least. However, while the Brazilian does a very good job of taking the ball on towards his right foot with his second touch, he ends up slipping and that halts the attack. In the second half, you witness Thomas Partey ahead of the midfield bank sliding the ball across Xhaka into the path of Gabriel Jesus in the left channel. When the Brazilian receives the ball, you can see Xhaka making a forward run off De Silva and Tierney prepared to make an overlapping run. As that play develops, you see no one picking up Gabriel Jesus, Xhaka beyond De Silva and Tierney occupying Hickey. From there, Jesus carries the ball in towards the final third, and because no one picks up the run of Xhaka, he's able to slide the ball between Hickey and De Silva for Xhaka to receive the ball ahead of the center back. The center backs retreat and don't step forward, so Xhaka has time to receive the ball, locate Gabriel Jesus running off De Silva who's ball watching, and from there he's capable of poking the ball beyond the center backs for Jesus continuing his run off De Silva, and from there he receives the ball in left half space. He could carry it towards the 6-yard area with his first touch, and he fires a low effort on goal that the keeper pushes away. From a defensive aspect, Xhaka did a very good job of getting onto loose balls and recovering possession when it looked like Brentford were able to break in transition, and by doing this he was helping Thomas Partey cover ground in that midfield zone and putting out a lot of fires to ensure that Brentford couldn't win those second balls and break forward in towards their own third. Initially, you witnessed De Silva looking to break forward beyond Xhaka, who's pulled towards the ball to break in transition, and when that pass is played towards him, he lets it roll across his body, and that gives Xhaka time to recover. From here, he's looking to take a first touch with a drop of his shoulder to push the ball beyond Xhaka, but Xhaka does a very good job of tracking that run, getting himself across De Silva and using his body to shield the ball away from him, and from there he ensures that De Silva can't pick up the ball and he lets it roll out of play for a throw. Then you witness Brentford's press in full effect with Hickey closing down Tierney and Gabriel forced to clear his lines. However, his clearance is played into the path of Hickey, but focus on Xhaka reading the game. He locates that Hickey would step in towards the pass and he tracks back to get himself within close proximity of the wingback, and from there he puts his body in towards Hickey and he's capable of getting himself ahead of the ball, and from there he shields the ball and brushes Hickey aside, and that ultimately helps Arsenal recover possession, and he ends up dropping it into the path of Gabriel, who can now identify Thomas Partey unmarked ahead of the penalty area, and he simply squares the ball towards the Ghanaian to help Arsenal push forward. More importantly, Xhaka did a very good job of providing cover in towards the half spaces. Because Brentford were playing with two strikers up front, they were often looking to peel and make runs in towards the channel, and from there they would attempt to drag out the Arsenal center backs, and it would leave a large gap between both center backs for runners to break into. It could either be one of the strike partners, or it could be one of the midfield shuttlers in Janssen or De Silva making runs from deeper positions to get themselves into attacking positions in the final third. From here, you would see Xhaka slide in towards the back line, and Thomas Partey would do so as well, but it was Xhaka in particular who was getting himself into good positions where he would be able to cut out the pullback or simply pick up markers to ensure that they couldn't get on the ball and harm the Arsenal backline. In this example, you witness Hickey running at Tierney and De Silva beyond Martinelli and Xhaka looking to run beyond the fullback. Now you see Hickey dragging away both Martinelli and Tierney towards the ball, and he looks to slide it into the path of De Silva to pull out Gabriel, but focus on Xhaka looking to drop off in towards the gap between the two center backs. From there, De Silva does receive the ball ahead of Gabriel, and he's looking to pull it back in towards Hickey, but his pullback falls into the path of Xhaka, who positions himself perfectly to ensure that pullback can't find the wing back, and from here he's now comfortable to carry the ball forward. He has an option towards his left and towards his right, but he looks to shift the ball out towards the right channel and he clips it over to Brentford players for Fabio Vieira, and that helps Arsenal build in towards Brentford's half. Following a long ball in towards Ivan Toney, he does a very good job of getting it across Saliba, and the forward run from his strike partner pulls away Gabriel. What Xhaka does well here is that he drops into that gap between Saliba and Tierney, and it's important because now Toney doesn't have a free passing lane in towards De Silva breaking in towards that gap. He decreases the passing lane in towards De Silva, and he creates a tougher passing angle, and as you can see, when Toney slides the ball across Xhaka, it's a bit short and it allows Tierney to get across to win possession and clear the danger. And then lastly, you could see Henry carrying the ball in towards Arsenal's half ahead of White and focus on Xhaka tracking a run in a central area. Henry looks to slide the ball across White for a run in towards the left channel, and that's going to pull out Saliba in towards that zone. The center back does track the run and now focus on Xhaka looking to sprint towards the penalty area and leaving his marker who's breaking towards the far post, and that's where you could see Tierney picking him up as Hickey's looking to make a run in between Hickey and Gabriel. When that cross is played in, it's important that Xhaka made that run because Hickey actually gets goal side of Gabriel, and if he didn't make that run, it'd be a free tap in for the wingback, but because he placed himself in that position, he's capable of sliding to make a lunging tackle, and from there he clears the lines for a corner kick. So as you can see, Granit Xhaka influenced the match on both ends of the pitch with his vertical off-ball movement into the final third to create space for others and himself, whilst covering the half space for his center backs to limit the threat from the runs of Brentford's forward duo and midfield shuttlers.